Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about 5 cores that in my opinion need to be tested going into Regulation F next month. Of course, I cannot talk about every core or every Pokemon in this video, so let me know what cores or Pokemon you guys are excited to try out when Regulation F begins. But with that aside, let's jump right into it. We are going to start this one off with a pretty controversial one. I know a lot of people tend to not like this core, but it is a really solid core, or historically has been a really solid core, and that is Whimsicott Terrakion. Now, my main concern right now with this core is I am uncertain of how it is going to hold up in Regulation F and into current meta, because what would normally happen is you have Whimsicott and you'd get something like Tailwind and you'd get something like Beat Up. And what you'd do is you'd be able to have 2 fast Pokemon in Whimsicott and Terrakion. Whatever moves you want to run on Terrakion is whatever. Normally Rock Slide and Close Combat and stuff. But with the Justified boost, basically you'd be getting a +1 attack stat every single time you were hit by a Dark move. So Whimsicott would be able to click Beat Up into their own Terrakion, and basically if it was on the first turn of the game where they hadn't lost a Pokemon yet, it would get Terrakion to +4 attack immediately. And back in the day, Whimsicott at, I believe, base 1, okay, I was going to say 115, but 116 Whimsicott and base 108 Terrakion were incredibly fast. And you needed Tailwind to shut this down. So Whimsicott having Tailwind of its own would just make this core incredibly fast and incredibly strong. This core was dominant. It saw a lot of usage, and rightfully so, right? It's incredibly broken. Getting a Pokemon that's really fast like Terrakion to +4 and then hitting massive rock slides, potentially flinching, hitting big close combats was just incredibly strong all around. Now, however, I don't know if 108 speed is fast enough anymore. And it's crazy how times have changed, because when I first started playing, like, Garchomp was considered a fast Pokemon, you know? And Terrakion was even faster than Garchomp, so Terrakion was a very fast Pokemon. But nowadays we have the likes of Regieleki, Fluttermane. I think Fluttermane is one of the biggest problems for this core, because Terrakion is not going to appreciate that. However, I think you can always get away now. Maybe you go like Terra Steel Terrakion, right? You throw a Terra Steel on there, you know, all of a sudden you're resisting the Fluttermane's Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam, so it can't kill you anymore unless it's Shadow Ball. But I don't think Specs Shadow Ball is taking you out, because you don't like have like you're not the frailest Pokemon as long as you're not weak to it, right? So you get that, and then you just probably kill Fluttermane back with a +4 Rock Slide. Like, I'll be completely honest, I don't think Fluttermane is living a +4 Rock Slide from a Terrakion. And yeah, that's what we're going with there, right? And once again, they may not have Tailwind, right? If they don't have Tailwind, you just make yourself faster than Fluttermane. You go from there. I also think Terrakion gets Iron Head. Yeah, I mean, once again, if it keeps Iron Head moving into this generation, it would be very cool to like Terra Steel Iron Head stuff, because I think that's definitely a really cool option going forward, because you hit the fairy types that would normally scare you, right? This core has so many options and so many ways to make it viable. I think it's going to see usage, and a lot of it early, just because, like, if you're not ready for this core is going to run over you. I don't want to say it's similar to Torn Urge, because it's not as easy to set up. You can protect around it, right? But in a way that if you're not ready for it, it will be able to steamroll you. There is no way that you can justify, like, if you don't have an answer, you're going down. And that's kind of why this core is so dominant. You also get things like Encore on Whimsicott, so if they try to protect around you, you just Encore them into that. There is so many tools, if I could type, but there are so many tools with Whimsicott beside Terrakion. It feels incredibly strong, right? Terrakion takes care of the steel types that would normally pressure Whimsicott, right? Terrakion also, I believe, used to get Stomping Tantrum, which would take care of the poison types that would pressure Whimsicott as well. Just all in all, the synergy between these two is incredible. You can self-proc, you can set your own Tailwind, and keep in mind, you still have 4 other Pokemon. This is a 2-mon core. It doesn't need much more setup than just these 2 Pokemon, and you have 4 others that you can play with to patch some of the rougher matchups. I think this core you're going to see a lot of usage in. And, I mean, got to be ready for it, in my opinion. You got to be ready for it. Moving on to, in my opinion, a more respected core. But this one, I'm really not as confident in it holding up into the current meta. I mean, Whimsicott Terrakion just has so many tools and to be able to proc so fast. But Porygon 2 Araquanid does not have those tools to be as fast proccing as that one, right? Like, yes, this core is incredibly strong, right? Araquanid resists the fighting moves that Porygon 2 would be weak to. Araquanid hits everything really hard, and Araquanid's ability, it's just one of the best abilities in the game, right? Water Bubble, your water moves are doubled. You cannot be burned, and as a physical attacker, that is massive. And fire damage going into you as a nice little bonus is halved. So obviously you're not taking too much from like flare blitzes and stuff like that, but having that even farther just feels incredible, right? Like, why not? It's just a nice little like carry on top of an already great ability, right? And this thing was a monster back in the day, right? You'd get stuff like you'd go liquidation, and that's liquidation. That's, I believe, base 80 power is liquidation, which would make it go to 160 base power just based off your ability alone. Obviously, you don't have the highest attack stat, but nowadays you can go like Terra Water Bubble Liquidation. It's going to pack a punch, right? That move alone is going to hit like a truck. It's going to be incredible. And now some cool things you can do now. You actually have Clear Amulet, because one of the best ways to deal with Araquanid was to intimidate it. Well, if you want to run Clear Amulet now, which I'm not sure if it's going to be like a solid thing, but I figured I'd mention it because it's a cool new tool for Araquanid to have. And I think it definitely might see some usage, right? You throw a Clear Amulet on, and with that Clear Amulet, they can't intimidate you anymore. So if they wanted to cycle in something that was going to slow you down, it's no longer going to slow you down, right? And then you get Leech Life to gain health back, right? Now, back in the day, Substitute used to be really good. I'm not so sold on Substitute anymore. I feel like the formats and everything is just too powerful for like a sub-lefty set to actually function properly. But you do get a cool thing like Wide Guard. So maybe you walk in with like Araquanid P2. Their game plan is to like flinch you with Rock Slide. You click Wide Guard, Porygon 2 is probably just going to get Trick Room up, right? There's a lot of options when it comes to Araquanid, and I think that's what I like. Obviously, I think its best asset is just spamming that water move. You could, in theory, go special as well because, like, yes, it's not as optimal. But if you get Scald back, Scald becomes a 160 base power move now with a chance to burn. I mean, yes, it's coming off of a 50% special, of a base 50 special attack, but it's still incredibly strong, right? So that Spider is an incredibly strong Trick Room sweeper. It also walls Urshifu in both ways. Hits you wall both Urshifus, like Wicked Blow resisted, Surging Strikes resisted, Close Combat resisted, right? It's a very good answer to Urshifu that would normally be quite capable of dealing with Porygon 2, right? But now we have our Porygon 2, which is super bulky piece because, let's be real, 90 defenses, 90 and 95 defenses with an Eviolite, I don't think that should actually be allowed. Like, that's kind of disgusting, okay? Like, we're talking like, let's just give it like modest bulk right here. We'll go 125 here, 125, 125 right now. I believe it's where am I going? There we go. Yeah, an Eviolite, right? It's giving a 1.5 times boost, right? So that's looking like that's just under like 200. You're looking at just under 200 in both defense stats, and keep in mind this is without a nature. I don't have a nature, and you probably invest in more bulk than this because you don't really need that much special attack. You probably go around 36 or 60, give or take. You can afford to go offensive as well if you want it on P2. I don't recommend it. I think just being able to live things and chill on the field is incredible. And just this core alone, like, you're going to get your Trick Room up. You're going to be doing big damage. You can probably add like an Incineroar or even an Iron Hands actually feels really cool on this core. Now that I'm thinking about it. Like, this seems absolutely flames. Now that I'm thinking about it. Let's add Iron Hands to this core because this core seems really cool. Like, I really want to try this now, right? You've got your incredible bulk and Iron Hands. You've got big damage pressure from Araquanid. And you've got Porygon 2 now. That should be almost guaranteed to get Trick Room up, barring, like, massive close combats going into it. But once again, now with Terra on Porygon 2 as well, this makes it similar to that Cresselia, right? Do I necessarily want to be wasting my Terra on Porygon 2? Absolutely not. But having the ability to Terra out of that fighting weakness into maybe a Fairy type or a Ghost type, right, feels like an incredibly strong option. The other one thing I want to talk about Porygon 2 before I move on is actually Terra Blast. Because that is Stab Terra Blast. It will always be Stab Terra Blast. And I think that's the cool concept. So before you'd have the Porygon 2, you know, like you go like Bolt Beam. So you'd have the Thunderbolt and the Ice Beam. Or you'd have the normal move and the Ghost move. But what if you just only needed one attack on Porygon 2? Now, I don't know if I necessarily recommend this, but it is something I'm curious on trying, where you only have the one attack, because now I have Terra Blast, and I can also I have normal coverage and I have fairy coverage. Right now, granted, depending on how often you're tearing this thing, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe you do just want to have like the Shadow Ball or the Thunderbolt or the Ice Beam on its own anyways, and you probably do. But only needing one move could potentially open up the door, because then you get Recover and you get Trick Room. Normally it's 2 moves, Recover, Trick Room. But this opens up the door now for this last slot, right? Let me put Recover and Trick Room in. Right, but now I'm saying if you don't need that second attacking move, this could be a really cool concept where you can actually add maybe something like, and people are going to hate me for saying this, but like an ally switch or an eerie impulse, you know, you add, or even a foul play, because foul play wasn't necessarily there for damage, but it could be a very cool way to capitalize on maybe like a belly drum Pokemon or something with best plus attack, right? You can take advantage of that as well. Like, even it just hits Landorus pretty decently as well. But if I'm gonna hit Landorus with a foul play, might as well hit Landorus with an Ice Beam. So that take that off. I didn't say that. You guys didn't hear that. But like I'm saying, it opens up the door for a lot more supporting moves where you only now need one attack to have 2 type coverages, which I think is very, very cool. I think that's an option either way. Porygon 2 Arachnoid Iron Hands, solid Trick Room core if you're looking to play Trick Room. If you're looking to play Trick Room, I would start, I don't want to say start here, but if you're looking to experiment with new tools in Trick Room, this is where I'd be looking, because this looks like a really, really cool core to me. So moving on, and I had talked about this one a little bit in my Legendary Beasts video with Suicune, Rillaboom, and Landorus. And my whole concept here entirely relies on Suicune getting Scald back. If they somehow take away Scald from Suicune, I unfortunately do not think Suicune is going to be a very strong option in the meta. I don't think it's going to be worth it. But we're under the assumption Suicune had Scald in the past. Let's keep it. Let's assume Suicune is going to keep Scald. Okay, this core seems kind of broken to me. I get to go lefters on Suicune, right? And Suicune does not appreciate Iron Hands, and Suicune probably doesn't appreciate Flutter Mane too much, but it's probably going to be able to take a hit. Right, so we need things that can deal with those 2 things. Rillaboom gives me faster Fake Out, right, and an Assault Vest, which now is faster Fake Out than Iron Hands, and gives me big damage with a Wood Hammer into killing off Flutter Mane, and Suicune now has Tailwind. So if they're trying to position in a Flutter Mane, maybe I go Rillaboom uses Fake Out on Flutter Mane's partner, Suicune sets up a nice little Tailwind, and all of a sudden Flutter Mane is no longer a threat, just like that. Right? There is a lot of things that you can do with Rillaboom and Suicune. And then Landorus, I kind of added on here because the electric type in Iron Hands is really, really spooky. Right? And having that switch in with Landorus, having the Intimidate as well. Like, not only just to be the ability to eat a Wild Charge, but the ability to swap on in and just like intimidate it and maybe allow Suicune to live a Wild Charge, allow Rillaboom to live Drain Punches. Overall, this core of 3 seems incredibly, incredibly strong. It just feels like a very strong pivot core. And then you patch this up with probably 2 more big attackers. I don't know what they'd be. And then maybe like some sort of mid-ground like attacks-less support piece. Maybe even like something really like bulk. Just even if you want to bulk it out a little more. That's completely up to you. But I think this core of 3 alone covers a lot of the meta right now. And you probably go Choice Scarf here, at least to start, until you find something else that maybe needs a Choice Scarf more, or you have a different item for Lando, right? Because now you're also immediately faster than Flutter. So now you can go Grassy Glide Tantrum, kill the Flutter. You don't even need to have Suicune on the field. You don't even need Tailwind up, right? You can go Stomping Tantrum, Wood Hammer. That's probably killing off most Iron Hands, right? You can go Stomping Tantrum, Grassy Glide into an Water Urshifu, and it's probably dying. You could go Terra Blast, Terra Flying with your Landorus and kill off the Urshifus as well. Basically, what I'm saying is this core of 3 seems to cover tons of the meta, and if they can't immediately kill Suicune and Rillaboom, these pieces become a nuisance over time, right? Suicune, maybe you want to put Calm Mind on Suicune, and you want to set up and say, hey, I have Intimidate. I can cycle the Intimidates around. Suicune's going to be here now, and Suicune's just going to immediately set up Calm Minds, and you're going to be at -2 physical attack, and I'm going to be at +2 special defense. Good luck breaking my Suicune now, right? Like, you may even say, as crazy as this may seem, throw an Incineroar here for double Intimidate. I don't think double Intimidate is going to go very far in this meta, but I think without knowing what the current meta is right now, throwing an Incineroar onto this core is very, very funny, because like I said, you get the Intimidate cycles. You can build a really specially bulky Suicune because you have the Intimidate cycles. You now have access to U-turn, Parting Shot, so you can always cycle in and out. And that pivot, the ability to pivot, have your own fake out more often than not on the field, allow to recycle those intimidates. It just feels like a really cool core. Once again, does double intimidate make a lot of sense? Unless the format remains as physical as it has been in the past, probably not. But I could definitely see where it comes. Like it comes in handy, right? But like gonna drop the Incin off that core for now. But I think these three right off the bat are, hey, these are my three pieces that I'm really trying to work with here. This is the core, and now I kind of need to close it out, right? Goldango is another cool piece here. Like once again, if I am cycling around with these pieces, I can probably support a Goldango incredibly well. And that once again also feels pretty strong on Discord. There's a lot of options here. I think just these three alone just cycle around really well. You get the lefties bulk on the Suicune, you get the Tailwind support. Maybe if you want to go Icy Wind instead of Tailwind, also a cool concept. Tons of options with Suicune, tons of options with this core. And once again, you can't get faked out on Suicune. Ryan, where's the Incineroar? Ryan, where's the Incineroar cores? Well, here's the Incineroar core, okay? Incineroar, Rillaboom, Urshifu. This is nothing new, okay? This core really picked up in popularity in Spikemouth Cup, which was a fan-made format that didn't have... is it fan-made? Because like, wasn't there an official tournament? I don't know. Either way, regardless, it was a format at the end of Sword and Shield where you couldn't Dynamax your Pokemon, and this core right here was incredible. It was the core of the format, right? You have, not only do you have a Fire, Water, Grass core immediately off the bat, you now have double Fake Out beside Urshifu, which goes through Protect. We've seen Fake Out plus Urshifu do things already in the limited time we've had Urshifu in Scarlet and Violet already. And just off of that, now you have double Fake Out, you now have a Fire, Water, Grass core, you have Intimidate, and you have Priority. I don't know what more you want in a core of 3 Pokemon, okay? This core of 3 Pokemon is absolutely disgusting. It is going to be good. There is no doubt in my mind this core of 3 is going to be disgusting. Incineroar is incredibly... Incineroar Rillaboom, by the way, just beats Psy Spam if you play it properly. Because you can lead Incineroar into the Psy Spam mode. They try to set it... They can't really set up Trick Room because you can pivot out whatever you lead beside Incineroar into the Rillaboom. Reset the terrain, Fake Out. Then you can Fake Out again with the Rillaboom, swap out the Incin, and you can just keep the cycle going. And it is an incredibly strong core. Obviously... Side spam players are going to be trying to avoid that, right? So there are ways to get around it. But just this core of 3 alone is absolutely going to be disgusting once again. There is no reason why this core won't work. Yes, Flutter Mane exists, but that's as simple as Protect Incineroar and click Woodhammer with Rillaboom, or patch it with one of your other 3 slots that you have. You know, this core right here feels incredibly strong. It always has felt incredibly strong, and you're going to see it once again. There's not much more I can really say about it. Like, double Fake Out, Priority. I could go round and round in circles saying the same thing, but I'm not. I'm going to keep it very brief here and just say, yeah, try this. It's going to be good. I mean, I guess I could say maybe an Iron Hands as a replacement for the Rillaboom or the Incineroar is a cool option, depending on your team. But the Fire, Water, Grass core alone, to me, makes Iron Hands not worth it. But it's a cool option. Like, maybe you go Iron Hands and you have like an Ogerpon instead of a Rillaboom, because that's kind of cool too, now that I'm thinking about it, right? You go Ogerpon, let's say just, I don't know which Ogerpon you'd go, right? Let's just say Ogerpon Water, maybe you want double Water, I don't know. But then Iron Hands, right? This core also seems incredibly strong, because this probably has a better indication or better chances of actually beating the mirror of the Incin Urshifu Rillaboom core, right? Because Ogerpon probably beats the Urshifu and the Incin, right? So in a sense like that, maybe this is the better direction for that core to go into. But like I said, the main core here is just this. Double Fake Out plus Urshifu, Fire, Water, Grass core in 3 Pokemon. I'm happy. I'm content. Seems really solid to me. And the last core I'm going to talk about is more of just a theory. I'm going to be very brief with this one. This is something I think has potential. And as a Goldango player over the last format, one of the bigger issues for Goldango is opposing Goldango, right? And Incineroar coming back is going to be an incredible Goldango counter, right? You resist both its stabs, you hit it back super effectively with both of your stabs, which feels really strong. Of course, Goldengo might start running like Focus Blast and Power Gem, right? But Incineroar probably isn't going to die to that and is going to be an incredible counter. So if Goldengo's biggest problem is Goldengo, why not have an Incineroar? Because now I have an Incineroar for the Goldengo mirrors, and I have my own Goldengo still, which feels really strong. We've seen Goldengo time and time again emerge in formats as an incredibly strong option, and once again, I'm pretty sure it is going to remain that way moving forward. So why not have your own Goldengo and something that can beat your opposing Goldengo? Now, the other bonus of this is now you get Fake Out. We've seen Iron Hands Goldengo be incredibly strong because of Fake Out plus setup with Goldengo, right? Now you get to Fake Out, set up with Goldengo, and intimidate something. So you can lead Incin Goldengo, Fake Out the special attacker, and leave the physical attacker at -1, just leaving your Goldengo safe entirely to set up a nasty plot. And you got your setup, right? It's as simple as that. Obviously, you probably want to close this out with some sort of redirection if you are playing this with a Goldengo. Like if you are playing with the setup Goldengo here, you probably want to go like either an Ogerpon or a Moongus, just some sort of setup. Ogerpon could be a cool one because it helps deal with the Urshifus, right? Gives you the follow me for your Goldengo. This core actually seems really cool. I'll leave the Ogerpon here because like in theory, now you've got Fire, Water, Grass in 2 Pokemon. You've got a setup Mon and Goldengo. You've got Redirection. You've got Fake Out. You've got Intimidate. That is the basis of a strong core already, right? Obviously, this is super experimental. We don't know how good Incineroar is actually going to be. But we know Goldengo plus Fake Out plus Redirection is incredibly strong. But now the Fake Out has Intimidate and the Redirection has Water Absorb to help deal with the Urshifus. I don't know. Seems like a really strong core to me, guys. But these are my 5 cores that I'm really looking to try out. Like I said at the beginning of the video, let me know what cores you guys are interested in trying out. I would love to start a conversation down there. Because like I said, I can't talk about every single core in the game. It's never going to happen. The video would be 2 hours long. And I don't think anyone wants a 2-hour long video. But with that, if you guys do enjoy the content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And of course, I really do appreciate it. But I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm going to get on out of here and I'll catch you all in a future video.